All right, for more on this very important topic, we are joined by Ethan Pollack, Senior Policy Analyst at the Economic Policy Institute, and we welcome back David Williams, President of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. And gentlemen, let's start this discussion off by, we all agree that taxes are too complicated in the United States. Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, absolutely.
So as we look at the Republican National Convention as it really officially kicks off today, we haven't heard a lot about what the tax policy or what the tax ideas are going to be and how that's going to affect the American people. Is there a reason why we haven't heard more details, David?
Well, I would say look at Mitt Romney and look at the House of Representatives and the Republicans in the House of Representatives. Those are Mitt Romney's positions about raising taxes or not raising taxes. So I really don't think Mitt Romney has to say a lot right now. Just look at what the House of Representatives, John Boehner, and those folks are doing. And
they're speaking for him already.
Right, and I think you can pretty much figure out what his ideas are going to be.
Ethan, we've talked about this on the show before. There's a growing frustration among Americans, there's a growing frustration among foreigners who invest in America about the complications of the U.S. tax code. So you have the corporate tax, then you have the individual tax. How can this possibly be solved within 1 year, let alone in a 4-year situation? You must have to take a small step at a time, right?
That's definitely true. This cannot be solved in a year, and I don't think anyone's promising that. But I do think at the same time that a lot of the kind of complaints that people have about the complexity in the tax code are not then solved by a lot of the solutions that we see. So, for example, you see people talking about consolidating rates. Well, the problem is not necessarily that there are too many brackets. The problem is that the tax code is cluttered with these loopholes.
You're
these
talking
tax
about
breaks.
you make X amount of dollars, you get taxed at certain percent, and so on, right? That's what you're referring to.
Exactly, and this is something that neither candidate really seems to want to go after. Romney has a tax plan where he promises to...
Why do you think that is? Why is that off the table for the Obama administration? Why is that off the table for Mitt Romney? Why do they want to talk about this?
Oh, because there's a lot of, there's reasons why there are tax breaks in the tax code, and it generally is because they provide, concentrated benefits to a small amount of people who then can, lobby for those things and make sure that they are still in there. It's basically concentrated benefits and diffuse costs, so it's a classical kind of, political economy problem, and it's very difficult to overcome that.
I spoke to some outsiders who are both Americans and non-Americans, and they look inside to America, and they look at the tax policy. You've got the entitlement programs, and then you have the tax rates, which basically the ones that are working pay most of the taxes. I think we'll assume that part. As less people are working in America, this is a fact. Yeah. The burden on the working class, and the middle class for that matter, is growing and growing. The folks that you talk to, how big of a problem is this?
Well, it's a huge problem, and it would be political suicide to raise taxes on the middle class and to get rid of some of these deductions, like the mortgage deduction or the nonprofits. I mean, that would be political suicide for either party because they're very popular, and not only that, they have very strong lobbying interests, especially the mortgage deduction. So you have the Republicans talking about drawing a line in the sand on the wealthy, saying we're not going to raise taxes on the wealthy. Boy, there is absolutely no way they're going to do this to the middle class. And conversely, on the left, the Democrats, the last thing they want to do is raise taxes on the middle class.
You know what's really frustrating is the fact that the working and the middle class pay the majority of taxes in this country. The burden on them is unbearable. And it doesn't matter whether you're making $35,000 a year or $135,000 a year, you're paying the majority of the taxes. The ultra-rich have their loopholes. The ultra-poor, they don't make much money, so in return, they don't have much of the tax burden. Is this fair to the working middle class that they're being asked, basically the time when the country needs the most to be innovative and invest in America, to ask them to pay more taxes?
No, I don't think it is. I think that we can eventually have a conversation. I think that eventually, if we want to get the budget on a sustainable path, what we need to do is we need to have higher taxes. That said, the first step here is to solve the tax fairness problem. It's exactly as you said.
We have limited time, so from both of you, I would like the number one thing that you would change in the tax code, if you could, within reason.
Well, a flat tax or a fair tax, but
I said within reason.
Within reason. Oh, here's something that's really unreasonable: is getting rid of the IRS and making it less complicated. Because if you institute a new tax system, it's just another layer on what we already have. So you have to get rid of the IRS, make it a lot simpler, and bring the rate down to 17 or 18%.
All right, single thing. Right now, we tax wealth, wealth that's already been amassed at 15% top rate, and we tax work at a 35% top rate. I think that's unfair, and I think that people who basically are making passive gains because of wealth that they already have, possibly wealth that they've inherited, I think that they should be paying the same rate as the middle class, and that means increasing the capital gains and dividends rate, preferably to the same rate as working men and women.
Or bring the rate down. How about we
right.
bring that 35% down to 15%?
We'll go
Is that a
in the middle.
compromise?
We'll go in the middle.
Gentlemen, great conversation. Ethan Pollack, David, thank you very much for coming on our show and helping us explain